Meeple Talk! Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Adam.
And welcome to Meeple Talk.
Yeah.
So you can see.
And this falling game
is Steampunk Rally.
Yes. So this is the second in our Steampunk series. This game is by Roxley Games. They're really making a name for themselves now. They have a new Kickstarter on, but well, they may not be there by the time you see the video, but
check it out.
Yes, Santorini. So anyway, Steampunk Rally is a game for 2 to 8 players. We've never played it with 8 players, but wow, that's a big group of people.
Takes about an hour.
Yes, and this is a steampunk-themed racing game.
Yeah.
So the way this game works, first you have you choose your character, and your character will be one of several different historical inventors who actually existed, and they actually have a little bit of history about them in the rules, which is kind of neat.
And their particular invention tends to follow along the lines of what their original work was all about.
Yeah, for example, here I've got Ferdinand von Zeppelin, and the pieces kind of look Zeppelin, you know, like floaty Zeppelin-ish, which is kind of cool. And there's some crazy music for Zeppelin, I guess. All right. So anyway, the 2 cards that you get are actually the first 2 pieces of your machine, which you put together, and there's cogs that determine how you can put them together, and I forgot how this goes, so...
That's okay.
But anyway, the important thing is, it goes together in some manner.
But the general idea, as you can see from the board, is that we've got a race course. Actually, there's 2 boards. There's the nice fields and plains.
The day board and the night board.
Exactly. And the night board is more like a crazy wooden ramp of some sort with different hazards and dangers and stuff. So you can actually customize your board, lay it out as you like, which is pretty cool.
There's 2 more pieces, by the way. So when you assemble the board really quickly, there's 3 intermediate pieces that you choose at random out of 5. So the board is different each time you set it up.
And what happens is that not only do you have the course that you're going to go through, but along the way there's going to be different hazards. So there's going to be different regions that you're going to pass through that's going to eventually cause damage to your invention. So eventually we're going to speak a little bit more about the how we actually prevent that from happening. But part of it, let's actually just dive right in and go through the phases. So when we're doing our race, what we want to first do, we want to improve our machine. So what we have is this, what we call the draft phase, where we have 4 decks of cards that we're going to draw from. Every player does. And a lot of these cards might have...
I'll take 4 as well. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Different components you can add to your machine. So this one is called the auger. And this one's really cool because it allows what they call smooth movement in the game. And that's what helps
without damage, yes.
Exactly, to go through the different rough terrains. And then you've got some booster cards that might give you resources that you can use or maybe certain game effects, like you can change either how a certain piece of land affects all players or inflict damage on other people or get different bonuses. And also... just other types of bonuses that you can add to your machine, whether it's enhanced functionality or storage capability of the resources that you have. So what we do is that when we grab it, we first pick one and then pass it. And the way we pass actually turns different directions every round. And so we all kind of have a chance eventually to see the cards and pick the one we want, whether we store it, add to our machine as long as connectors match other connectors. And you can always reconfigure your machine throughout the game to make sure everything lines up nicely. And eventually, you're going to, if you have already used your machine along the race, you're going to notice that certain components are going to exhaust themselves because as you activate your machine, you're going to need certain die rolls. And you'll see these different color of dice, and they all represent a different form of powering, whether it's steam, which are the blue ones, heat, which is the red ones, and also finally electricity, which is the yellow. Right. So you're going to need to roll some minimum die rolls to activate a certain component of your machine to help it propel, or whatever benefit.
Yeah, and I just want to mention that you'll get those die in the draft phase because instead of you have the option of using that card to create your machine, or on the corner they'll show resources, either dice or cogs.
So you can trade the cards in.
Yeah, you can sacrifice that card and get dice.
Good point.
So then, when the race phase comes, then you'll have some dice.
That's actually how you get these.
Yes.
Yeah, and so that's the building or drafting phase of the game. Then we go to the event phase, as I said earlier. As you start activating your components, you won't be able to reuse them again until the die roll, you eventually have to reduce the pip values until they are depleted, and then you can lift off. And so that allows you to reuse particular component again.
Yeah,
so you're going to have to balance that out.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
and that's done with cogs. So as mentioned, you can get dice, but you can also get cogs. Yep. So in the vent phase, before the race phase, you can use those cogs to get rid of old dice, so that when you roll your dice during the race phase, you can use those.
Yeah. And once you've got your dice, then it goes into the race phase, and that's what happens. Well, you kind of roll, and then you kind of try to, if you get the good die roll or use cogs to modify your die roll, you can then activate your machine and go. So now there's movement that you can do, different combinations on your machine. You might find that you'll take advantage of certain movements, or some of the actions on your machine may get you extra resources or the ability to maybe remove some of your die, or just some other benefits that you can activate, and you can decide in any order how you're going to use them up.
Yes. So yeah, a big part of the game is figuring out on any given race phase what you're going to power and in what order you're going to power it. Because, for example, you might have one machine that turns, a couple blue die into, yellow die, and then those yellow die can be used on another part of your machine to move, and another, some other die might be used to heal, because you'll take some damage in certain squares. Yeah. So...
and that goes right into the next phase, the damage phase. So when you build up, so what happens is that you try to heal ahead of time, and how you keep track of that is we all have these counters here. So when you build your healing capability, you count them up, 1, 2, 3, and as eventually when you go into the damage phase, as you've finished your movement, you look at the terrain that you've crossed, and they'll have different damage values, 1, 2, 3. And so you may need to make sure that you've built enough in your tracker here to finally deplete, hopefully just to 0 and no less. If you can, awesome. Your machine is intact. If you actually suffer damage by the end of your movement, you're going to have to destroy some part of your machine. One component per damage that you get, to the minimum of your base machine.
Yeah, and it's possible for your base machine to explode, and then you're back in last place, but you continue the race.
Exactly.
So that's nice. You're not out of the game if your whole machine explodes.
And the general over idea when you're choosing your cards and building your machine is that every inventor has a particular strength, and so you might want to choose the components that lend to that strength, because it may make you go that much farther, suffer less damage, or for whatever reason gives you certain advantage. Yeah. And that's kind of the unique part, I think, about this game. I do think it's really different. I mean, artwork, it's awesome. When it comes to a steampunk game, it really matches the theme. It's not one of these, like, I have a different idea, let's slap some goggles and it's steampunk. Like, this one actually makes it look like a steampunk game, and they use the characters at the right time. I used to have a gripe about the character choices themselves, or how, characters, if they were alive today, what they think of themselves in this game. But that could be another topic of discussion. As I play this game, I find my opinion always changes. There's things that I like and then don't like, and then it completely changes over time. So I don't really have a consistent view on a positive or negative, other than overall, I still enjoy playing it. Yeah, there's things you can find to take issue, but it's still enjoyable. Creating the machine, I really like the machine creating aspect of it. Yeah.
So my opinion is I really like this game as well. What I like about it is I like the strategy of trying to build your machine. I like how the machine looks. I like the race component, and I think, it doesn't last too long. It's not really hard to learn, and it has a lot of cool components. And if you like a steampunk game, then you're definitely going to like this game. Couple of negatives, though, that came up during the play. One of them is kind of a minor theme issue, where first person who passes the finish line doesn't win the race. Now,
How do you not win a race when you don't cross the finish line?
I can't think of any kind of real or imagined race where you don't win when you cross the finish line.
The finish line does not mean finish.
Yes. So that's a minor gripe, but I think it's kind of a big
appendix piece here. Yes. Just kind of, exactly.
So this is always attached to the finish line, and then there's one more round. And at the end of that round, you determine who is ahead. So that's kind of silly, I think. Yeah. They probably could have fixed that. I don't know what happened. The other issue is this idea of taking your turn simultaneously. Now, each of the phases, other than the draft phase, the vent, the race, I guess those are the two important ones, but the races specifically, the game says that all of your turns should be simultaneous. So that means while I'm roll my dice and powering my machine and moving, everyone else is doing that. But we found that when we played, that didn't feel right. Like
we kind of wanted to talk it out.
For number one, it's nice to find out what other people are doing, right? Because when you look at their machine after they've moved, you have no idea how they did it, right? Because they did something in a very specific order. And the other thing is, it's really cool to power your machine, so you kind of want to describe it.
It's almost like you're bragging about it.
Yeah,
I was able to do this and this and this by doing that.
But also, when you're just focusing on your own machine and everyone's doing everything else simultaneously, it almost feels like you're playing and then other things are happening and you don't really understand anything else that's happening. So I find that as a minor negative of the game. And we've played it where each person took their turn and explained during the race phase, and the game is a lot longer when you do that, right?
And we've never
With 3 players, it's okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, because this has a capacity for 8 players, that may make it way too long. So I can understand the solo game aspect if you're having a large group. We have yet to test it, though, but
so
it feels different.
I just wanted to point that particular negative out, because with other games, Euro games where you're just doing your own thing, you can look at someone else's board, or you can look at the board and you can see what they're up to, right? And you can plan and strategize. But with this, since you're doing it simultaneously, you're not paying attention to what other people are doing.
You don't really know.
So you lose that aspect of the game. But I definitely think overall, I think they did a great job with the theme. Beautiful artwork. I think it's the game mechanics are really cool. Building your machine is completely different each time you do it. You never know what cards you'll get. And, you can create some really cool machines that do cool things. So
and that's the part
overall, I really like the game.
Yeah, and you know what? I would say so too. And I guess for the theme or the type or genre that it's in, I think they've done a really good job, and they do stand out as being better than some others that we've come across so far. So kudos on that design. So I would say if you like steampunk or race games or just machine building games, or I guess any type of item building. This is definitely for you. At first, I thought it was maybe a little cumbersome with the different dice, but you know what? After a while, I didn't mind it anymore. Yeah. So it just adds a neat little layer to that.
I think it's a game that just it grows on you.
It does, and it's multi-layered and it's just kind of neat. So it's not over-designed with too many components. So I would say, you know what? Actually, give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.